Well, it's 7 p.m. here on Saturday, February 25th in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and in Bethesda, Maryland. And this is Saturday night with Zach and Ray, your hosts from CarEdge. How are you doing tonight, Zach?
Doing well, Dad. Saturday night. We have a guest coming in just a moment here. And honestly, folks, I'm doing it. I know Brandon from Car Questions Answered will be here with us shortly, and so we're excited to get his take as well. But Pops, let me share the screen. Some breaking news, and I'm not even being hyperbolic. Some breaking news tonight. Actually, let me share the entire screen because we're going to be jumping from window to window.
Okay.
Here we get, Pops.
Yeah.
American Car Center, a dealership group you've probably never heard of. They have 50 locations. Have you ever heard of them before I keep going?
I have never heard of them, but, they're pretty big for a group that has 50 locations.
I mean, 50 locations is non-trivial. 50 locations, Dad. The breaking news today, subprime auto lender American Car Center closes for business. ACC employees were informed of the shutdown on Friday. The company had pulled out of a bond sale earlier this week. So, Pops, this dealership group, American Car Center, they tried just last week to sell $222 million worth of bonds that were securitized. They were asset-backed. They were backed by their loan portfolio, and they were unable to get that deal done. Fast forward to today, or yesterday, I should say, and they have shuttered their doors. You can go on their website. They have over 800 vehicles in inventory. So the title of tonight's stream, what we're going to be talking about, me and Pops, and obviously Brandon when he joins us as well, the used car market collapses near major dealers and banks are going under. And I didn't even cue this up for us tonight, Dad, or I should have done this more recently, but it's not just American Car Center. Dad, Credit Acceptance Corporation. And after I show this information, if you could provide a little bit of context as to who Credit Acceptance Corporation is, I think that would be very helpful. Where was it here? I just had it. An increase. Here we go.
Okay.
Credit Acceptance Corporation, in their most recent earnings, had an increase in credit for provisions for credit losses of 403% year over year in one of their quarters, Dad. $104.4 million. They increased the amount of money they're setting aside by 403% because they expect less of their loans to actually come to fruition. Hearing that coming off the news that I just shared with you of a similar dealership group, similar financing company, American Car Center, literally shuttering their doors today. Yesterday. What do you think, Dad? Is the used car market collapse near? Are the cracks forming? We haven't even talked about CarMax, Carvana, the others. Like, the cracks are forming, aren't they?
Well, you would suspect when you see things like this, and Credit Acceptance Corporation is basically the lender of last resort for a lot of subprime borrowers. Their entire portfolio is pretty much subprime people. Very, very high interest rates. Oftentimes they charge the dealer bank fees in order to even do the loan. They try to collect as much money up front as they can because they know that a relatively large percentage of the loans are going to go bad. And when I say large percentage, they might be figuring 8 or 9%, where a regular bank would figure maybe 2%. So it might be like 4 times more loans that go bad, but it's a much higher percentage. And then you look at the American Car Company or whatever the heck it was,
Car Center,
Car Center, and they were a dealership group, from what I understand, that pretty much relied on subprime customers.
Absolutely, 100%.
Once again. And yes, they tried to do a bond sale the other day, I think on Thursday. And then they had to pull that back. And on Friday, they notified their staff that you're all fired at the close of business today. We're done. So it indicates to me that some players in the used car market, especially those that deal with subprime customers, are finding themselves a little bit at their wits' end as to how they're going to be able to remain in business. I mean, we didn't even talk about Carvana yet, who reported an $806 million loss for the fourth quarter, a $2.9 billion loss for the year. And you start looking at all these things and you go, well, none of that bodes well for others in a similar position. So you would think that there could be some ripple effects from some of these situations, some of these closures. Carvana at a certain point could run out of cash, and
that's
go ahead.
Why else do you do it? Why else do you do what American Car Center just did? Like, seriously, like that's a microcosm of Carvana, just at a smaller scale. It's maybe 1/50th the size of Carvana, or 1/30th, whatever it is. But they tried to get $222 million in cash, back, so that they could operate their business, and they couldn't. The last time they did one of these deals was back in 2021, and they were able to for a couple $100 million. And the reason you weren't able to get the money was because the portfolio looked so bad and the price wasn't reasonable enough for them to actually do it. And one piece of information I didn't even share with you in the Credit Acceptance Corp, that year over year, look at this, an increase in provision for credit losses of 5,631%, primarily due to an increase in provision for credit losses on forecast changes of $500 million due to changes in the amount and timing of forecasted net cash flows, primarily due to consumer loan performance. The idea, or the saying of the music has stopped, you don't have to look any further than American Car Center going under this past week, and Credit Acceptance Corporation putting out in their quarterly report a 5,631% increase in loan loss provisions year over year. Cracks might not even be the appropriate word for this, Dad. That is more than a crack. That is a crater, and that is an indication, especially when you pair it with one other thing to show you, Dad, especially when you pair it with the delinquency rates. Especially when you look at information like this, subprime delinquency rate by credit score. Dad, folks that have the lowest credit scores, they're well above 20%, coming up on 25% delinquent.
Wow.
1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 auto loans to someone who is in a lower credit tier are going delinquent. Look back at 2006. You can see the trajectory. You can see where we're heading. No wonder these businesses are struggling. No wonder they're having to make some of the decisions that they're making.
It's, and how will that impact the rest of the market? I don't know. I mean, American Car Center, I mean, they've got 800 and some cars between and they have to have more than that if they have 50 locations.
On their website, that's what I found.
Yeah. I mean, if they have 50 locations, and even if they only had 20 cars at each location, that's 1,000. So however many cars they have, I mean, obviously they're going to need to liquidate that inventory. But is it enough cars to impact wholesale values across the board? Absolutely not. It isn't. But is it, as you like to say, reading between the tea leaves, or as some would say, reading between the lines? There are real issues out there, and there are more used car dealerships that are being confronted with those issues than we are presently aware of, and it could be a lot worse than what we're thinking.
Why don't we get some insights from someone who's in the trenches?
Okay.
Pops, I think someone's at the door. Can you let him in?
Oh my God, it's Brandon. It's Brandon from Car Questions Answered. Brandon, how the hell are you tonight?
Good. Sorry about the delay. For whatever reason, my internet wanted to not work anymore when Zach hit go. So
we're here now. You're back. Yeah. Hey, and I just want to mention before we jump in, Brandon, I'm seeing some comments in the chat. This is public information. Everyone can get access to this. We are so thrilled that people are consuming this type of information because it can help inform when you maybe time your purchase. So 100%. If more people research and read these things, that's why we do what we do. So we're really appreciative of everyone being here tonight, everyone who's going to watch it afterwards. And Brandon, we are super appreciative and why we're big fans of your channel, Car Questions Answered. You did the same thing. And Pops, Pops is not on YouTube that often, but when you are, Dad, go check out Brandon's channel. He's literally talking into whatever camera you use at the auction lane. It's very good information. Brandon, did you catch what we were talking about before with American Car Center and also Credit Acceptance Corp, things like that? Or should we run it back and get your take?
I didn't catch any of the first part, but I think they had 40 stores and 50 stores,
50.
and they sent out a memo, hey, everybody's fired. That's scary. That's scary. I pray for the people that just lost all of their jobs and probably didn't have any warning beforehand.
No, I mean, if you go on Twitter, it's pretty clear that no one had any warning, and both it's interesting, and obviously it's unfortunate when you see things like this happen, and obviously it's predicated on poor management decisions. Like they obviously were taking advantage of customers with predatory loans, and then they couldn't sell the book of business, and so it is sad. But you see on Twitter, customers of American Car Center are saying like, "What do I do now? Like they're no longer a company. What do I do?" And you even see employees on Twitter as well saying like, "Oh, I was just there yesterday. I no longer have a job." The scary thing that we were really starting to dig into, Brandon, is you look at Credit Acceptance Corp, another subprime lender. They've increased year over year their loan loss provisions, the money they've set aside for loans that aren't going to come due, by 5,600%. So we were debating if that's a crack or a crater in the used car market. What do you think?
Well, you're seeing all the banks do it. So if you look at like recent earnings, the last few quarters from JP Morgan, you look at Wells Fargo, all of them are increasing their loan loss provisions, getting ready for what's about to happen. As all these banks know, they're seeing savings rates go down. They're seeing credit card debt going up. So, I mean, they know exactly what's about to happen. And the problem is with the used car market is how high the prices have been over the last couple of years, and how underwater these people are on these cars that they've bought in the last 2 years with this over MSRP. I want to say a bad word, but just the crap that they have to deal with. And it's even worse on the used car side in a lot of ways, because they're paying sometimes 30-40% over the value of these vehicles, and the banks are allowing this to happen. And it's even worse on these subprime lenders, because they're getting way more interest than your average bank is going to get. I know that in North Carolina, these buy here, pay here, these subprime lenders are able to get up to 25% interest on these loans, and they're getting it. They're getting every point they can get.
It's just scary to think that you could be in a situation where, as a consumer, you're paying that much interest. And then we were just looking at delinquency rates, and they are over 20%, almost 25%, Brandon, for those that are in a subprime space. If you are not familiar with Brandon's channel and why we have him on so often, A, he's very generous with his time. B, you don't offer financing for your customers, because they're folks that are spending less, sub $10,000, more sub $5,000. And it's people like that. You go on American Car Center's website right now. The scary thing is they're talking about all the different ways they can help you get into financing. And yeah, those are 25% interest rate loans. That's a terrible setup for anyone in any situation. Obviously, there are circumstances where people have to sign up and do that, but it's especially difficult in situations where the price of the vehicle is overinflated to begin with. What have you been seeing more recently? I was just watching one of your more recent videos before we hopped on. I think you're starting to see some, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but are you seeing cracks? I guess that's my question to you. Are you seeing the cracks happening in the market?
Yeah, we're starting to see more repos show up. So I know we've touched on that enough. It's not flooding the market. I don't think they are going to flood the market, because the amount of repos, even if there's an explosion in them, there's not going to be enough repos to come into the market to be able to fill the void that we're lacking from the trade-ins, from these new car dealers not selling the cars and getting trade-ins to the auction. What I am very worried about is this tax time. We've all been reading that tax checks, these tax refunds, are supposed to be a little bit less this year than what they have been in the years past, but dealers are still loading up, and they're spending way more money per car than they ever have before, expecting to be able to sell through the stuff. And what I worry about for smaller dealers like myself, that do use floor plans are over leveraged, is that they are going to overexpose themselves, and then they're going to sell some cars. So we're going to sell some cars. We've already started seeing tax money. Thursday we sold 8, and we're usually dead on Thursday. Yesterday we sold 7. We were pretty busy today too. So tax money's here, and it's already starting to move through the system. These guys are going to sell some cars, and then they're going to rush to the auction, and they're going to buy some more, expecting the tax time to keep on going, keep selling some cars. And there's not enough inventory to be able to hold the prices down right now. They're going to spend way too much. And then at that point, I worry that they're not going to be able to sell any of this stuff that they're over leveraged in after this money dries up, because it dries up just as soon as it gets here.
Can I ask
Go for it,
Brandon a
Pops.
quick question? You're starting to see your customers come in with their tax refunds.
Mhm.
Do the refunds seem to be the same, bigger, smaller than in years past? Have you heard anything from your customers?
My customers haven't said that they've gotten anything less. I don't know that the customer, a lot of the customers that come in and buy the car, they're just happy to have some money. The ones that I typically see in the first rush. I will say this week and the last few days have not been a good judge of if the actual biggest wave is here yet, because it's weird, but we always get this one little pop, and then it kind of dissipates for just like a week or two, and we're like, was that tax time? It didn't feel crazy. It didn't feel like it usually does. So we kind of know that now after doing it for 11 years and getting this little pop in the beginning where people who filed super early, maybe they just started getting their tax money Thursday, but the real hit may be next week. It may be 2 weeks from now. So when I see that, that's going to be a bigger gauge of what tax season is going to look like. And it's been busy, but it hasn't felt like crazy. Like people have not been yelling at each other to buy a certain car yet. And that happens every year. And people have not yelled at us yet because they came in and we just sold the car that they were coming for 20 minutes ago. So we haven't seen that yet. And we see that every year. So I'm thinking that the bigger wave is going to be next week. It's going to be 2 weeks from now.
Can we talk just for a moment about the dichotomy in the market? Because we do have 2 very different markets. Honestly, maybe even like 3 different markets.
Yeah,
There's
there's a
the
lot, yeah.
market that you operate in, Brandon, which is, I'm going to call it sub 10, but it's like sub 7,500. We'll meet in the middle, sub $7,500 vehicles. Then there's like, anywhere between 10 and I'll say like 30,000, which are generally speaking for most folks like a range that they feel comfortable in. And then you have like the 50,000 plus, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's the average, almost the average transaction price of a new vehicle. And the reason I want to talk about this a little bit is I know this is going to be a bit hard to read, but I tweeted this out earlier, guys, and I know it's blurry, but this is from Cadillac of Bellevue. This is a $49,000 markup on a new Escalade. And I got another one. It's a little more clear here so you guys can actually see it. This is a $47,000 markup on a CT5 Blackwing. And I know, Pops, you're going to get a kick out of the fact that they've got $39,995 in door cups, protective door edge guards, nitro tire fill, first quarter size ding removed, first windshield chip repaired, free lifetime battery and oil recycling, and free rental car with major service. The talking point here isn't that we're seeing markups like this. We know this crap goes on. The talking point here is how the hell does that go on at the same time that we're seeing all these challenges, beginning to see these challenges in the used car side in the other different markets. The dichotomy, the haves and have-nots has never felt, at least I've been doing this, for 3 years with you now, Pops? It's never felt more real than right now. And we haven't even talked about the other Cox data that shows the huge increase in new vehicles with MSRPs over, what was it, $50,000 and new vehicles with MSRPs under $25,000. They're going by the wayside. So what do you make of that as a factor into all this, Dad? The dichotomy between those different markets?
Well, obviously, a Cadillac at Bellevue, and I believe that would be Bellevue, Washington.
Yep.
They are appealing to a higher income clientele with those type of vehicles in that particular market. And yes, in some parts of the country, there doesn't seem to be a shortage of consumers who have the wherewithal to buy vehicles in that type of price range. But they don't represent the vast majority. They just represent a healthy enough minority of people that can help these dealerships survive. Those that fall in the market where Brandon serves them, and somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000, $10,000 and $30,000. Yeah, it is. It's probably the reason the reason that market's growing faster than any other market is because so many other people are priced out of the rest of the market. So that puts pressure on Brandon to have cars for his type of customers, and it puts pressure on all other dealers to be able to come up with affordable pre-owned cars in the $10,000 to $30,000 price range.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm. You can see me like chomping at the bit to jump in. You were saying, Dad, that well, you were saying something that triggered this train of thought, and I totally lost it. It's there are enough people in that segment of the market that are buying those vehicles. Well, there's enough people that it's influencing the way that OEMs are thinking about producing vehicles. We talked about it this week on the CarEdge channel here. GM actually is beginning to restrict and idle a plant that produces Chevy Silverados. And the reason that they're doing that is because they want to maintain inventory levels that keep prices high. Yes. So I agree with you that there are enough people there, but I don't want to make it sound like it's the 1% of 1%. This is General Motors with their every man's and every woman's truck, the Chevy Silverado, and they are intentionally restricting supply because they said they have over 100 days supply on the ground. I do agree with you, though, Pops, 100% that is forcing people down market. That is forcing people to go look for used vehicles. And Brandon, I wonder, I imagine you've probably seen your clientele change at least a little bit, like see some people who maybe would have thought they could afford a different vehicle, but have to think about something that might be at your lot because it's actually in the price point that they can afford.
Yeah, we actually had the best December and best January that we've ever had. And I think it's just a factor of people having to trade down. So your biggest class of buyers are going to be in the mid tier. That's just where they are. So if a larger percentage of them have to trade down to vehicles that are under, like you said, $7,500, then it's going to even put more pressure on the types of vehicles that I'm buying because I'm going to sell more. Other dealers that buy the same kind of stuff that I buy, they're going to be selling more because a larger percentage of the meat of the population is being moved into our tier of vehicle, and we're getting less trade-ins. So that's just going to keep the lower tier not so low.
And then that puts pressure on dealers to bid up cars at the auction. It's like a little bit of a vicious cycle here. But then again, the reason I do feel appropriate saying cracks, like that's what it is. We are seeing the cracks, and we are seeing intentional decisions being made that allude to the reality that this cycle can't go on in perpetuity. Like this does the idea of down market used cars appreciating forever doesn't work. It fundamentally doesn't work in how the whole system is set up. And so I think we are starting to see some of those cracks that suggest eventually we will go back to the ways things used to be, which leads me to believe that what goes up must come down. Prices eventually will have to fall. Timing that, we've been wrong about that for 3 years, so it's probably better off not to prognosticate on that front.
Can I? It's not a crack or a crater. It's a chasm. Okay. And what I mean by that, it's just the widening chasm between those who can and those who can't. Okay. And Cadillac at Bellevue was the perfect example of it. Their appeal is to those who can. Everybody else, and I won't say everybody, but a vast majority of Americans find themselves in the category of people that cannot afford to buy a new car if the average transaction price is $50,000. So it's not a crack, it's not a crater, it's just a widening of that of those who can and those who can't. And that chasm has never been wider or deeper than it is, at least in my opinion, than it is at the present time. And honestly, Brandon, he deals with it day in and day out. And I know that you're paying more for cars today than you ever have to be able to still have cars to sell to your customers. And you're asking them to pay more today than you would have 2 years ago for the same type of cars, because everybody is trying to find those type of cars. Am I anywhere near close?
Yeah, I mean, we like 3 years ago, we would have. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast video that we did.
Yep.
Because it was a guy that used to work with me. We used to have 10, 15, $1,500 cars on our lots. And that would just be normal for us to have that price range of car. And I can't tell you the last time that I've had a vehicle that I've been able to sell for $1,500. Those same $1,500 cars we're having to sell now for $3,000 because we're paying $1,800 for them at the auction. So we used to sell them and make money on them at $1,500, selling them to our customers for that. And now we're paying $1,800 for that same vehicle at a wholesale level.
And I've got to believe that really isn't sustainable. I mean, I don't think you would think of that as being real sustainable. I mean, if you've been doing this for 11 years, I mean, you have dedicated yourself to trying to help people way down in the market that have the least amount of money to spend, but still have a strong need for a vehicle so they can get to and from wherever it is that they're trying to earn their living.
Right.
So it's got to become harder and harder for those people, I would think.
And those people are coming to our lot. Like, I mean, we're known for selling cheap cars because people have bought 7, 8 cars from us over the last 10 years. And I mean, we've even moved lots within that time, and they followed us to our new location. And we had a couple come in today and say, look, I bought quite a few cars from you, and I'm looking for a $2,500 car. That's what I'm trying to. I've got $2,500. You got some for $2,000, so I can get in it and be able to drive. And the cheapest thing that we have on our lot right now is a $2,500 car, and it's just, and we have one of them. So it's just, we get these customers all the time that have bought cars from us before in years past and been able to pay $1,500, $1,800 for a car. And they come back to us and we just have to say, look, I'm sorry, save your money for another month or two and see if you can come back. But I mean, we don't have anything that we are actually in ourselves for under $1,500. So,
wow.
I just want to go to the chat here for a minute, guys. We've got great comments coming through. Lucky Green Stripe says, anyone else think the microchip shortage is a load of crap? And I think the unfortunate reality, in my opinion, would be that the microchip shortage wasn't a load of crap, that it was a real challenge that the industry faced. The load of crap is that it will be used as a justification moving forward. Although we've already seen GM come out and say, we're actually just doing this for inventory management. But I think it's going to be used as this justification to continue to jack up prices. And it is the short-sightedness of this industry to just continue to screw customers over left and right, only to put more pressure on all other facets of the industry. Go for it.
I have a question about the GM thing. So I'm going to do a video about that this week because I want to dive into it a little bit more. But if they're saying that they're still able to sell all these vehicles, it was the only reason is to just keep their prices up. Is that to control inventory, or is it? It seems to me if they're selling vehicles and they're selling for a certain price, they're not going to cut production. I think it has more to do with they're at their 100 days and they can't sell vehicles and they don't want to overload their dealers.
I think it's twofold. When you read the article, in the article they say they're trying their best to better manage the production of their inventory, to try and keep it within a 50 to 60 day supply of vehicles for these particular trucks. And I have heard and read that, actually there's about 100-day supply of those trucks around the country. So they're so far off from where they wanted to be that realistically their only avenue was to cut back production.
Well, BS.
Either that, or incentivize the sales. And
Exactly.
they don't want to spend. It's cheaper for them to idle the plant for 2 weeks or whatever amount of time it is, and it's only one plant so far. My suspicion would be it is the plant with the highest wage earners, the highest production costs, as opposed to some of their other plants where the costs would be cheaper. So they've realized it's cheaper to idle that plant for 2 weeks than to increase incentives, because they've grown accustomed to not having these big incentives. That's what's allowed them to produce fewer vehicles, sell fewer vehicles. And when I say sell, they're selling them to their dealers, wholesale their vehicles to their dealers, and they don't have to pay their customers to actually go buy the cars, at least not to the degree that they did. And so this to them is cheaper.
It's also, I think, placating. Sorry, Brandon, but I'm this is
No,
you
you're
asked
fine.
the right question.
Go ahead.
This crap pisses me off, man. I was wild. What was this, Thursday, Dad,
Yes.
on the Reigns? Actually, I was pissed off, man. I was really pissed off. Because this is the crap that's happening. It's also to placate dealers. Everyone that is involved in this value chain that is called selling a car is implicated in this. This is what Tropical Chevrolet's doing on a new 2023 Silverado. They're adding the Prot package and the market adjustment and the fee, right? This is what's happening. You go to our community forum, guys. The community forum is one of the best resources to get an understanding of what a fair price is to pay for a vehicle. And I know we've got all the paperwork here, but the long and short of it is 2023 Silverado. The dealer's selling it at MSRP plus the North Texas package for $798. Whoever the heck knows what that is, please let me know. And at the same time, you hit the nail on the head, Dad. It is an intentional business decision because look at Stellantis and look at Ram. This is from Eric a month ago. $11,000 discounts and incentives on a 2022 Ram 1500 Bighorn. So it's out there. It's out there. Stellantis is making the decision that they want to be perceived as slightly more customer friendly, I guess. But GM's just saying, screw it. We're going to make sure that the dealers make more money, they continue to make money, over earning from prior years. And you know what? We'll just only make the most profitable vehicles so we don't have to be as worried about overloading them with inventory. Consumers lose. Consumers absolutely lose in that environment. It really frustrates the hell out of me because no one, literally no one, is looking out for and building vehicles that people can actually afford. In the downstream, Brandon, your business is going to be so difficult a decade from now. Like you're like legitimately running your shop. I don't understand how it's going to work in a decade because none of these new cars are going to be 10-year-old used cars that are going to be at lower prices. It's not going to happen.
What I think too is, I mean, I don't know how you disrupt the automotive industry because it's just so ingrained in its ways. But Tesla's starting to doing it. So, I mean, I know there are a lot of laws that stop like Ford and GM from going straight to consumers in certain states, especially. But I mean, when you get an era like we just went through and you're seeing these dealer markups, and like I'm going to these lots and looking at these new vehicles, and we went to a Toyota dealership last week and every vehicle had a dealer adjustment. Didn't matter what it was. It could be a Corolla. It could have been a Tundra. They all had dealer adjustments. But when you start, I mean, and we're getting a lot of attention. Like I believe my channel has blown up as quickly as it has because people are just so fed up and want to understand what's going on behind the scenes and see why all this is allowed to happen and why is it happening. When you get this much attention, something's got to change. There's got to be a breaking point. And I really think that there's going to be a big change in this industry in the next 10 years. Something's got to come to help consumers because the internet's out there and people are doing research, and you just can't hold a blindfold over people anymore.
I think, Brandon, if I may, I think the breaking point will come if and when the accountants, the bean counters at all the major automobile manufacturers say, we're missing too many sales because we don't have inexpensive vehicles for people to buy. And if we could sell 10 times more inexpensive vehicles than we have been selling, and only sell 5% less of our most expensive vehicles while we do that, we will actually still come out ahead. So until the bean counters tell upper management, hey, you can make money selling small cheap cars again, until that happens, it won't happen. Part of the problem is that these are all publicly traded companies. And publicly traded companies have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to produce.
All companies do.
Okay, to produce as much profits and as much return on their investment as they possibly can. And so those who are in charge of these companies, they take the shortest term view as to what their plans are. What is going to show the most return on investment, get me more stock options because look what I did, look how I improved and increased the value of the stock of the company. So they're not really looking, most of these CEOs are not really looking long term. And the reason I can say that is, when I worked for the Penske organization, I worked for a number of different general managers. I worked for one general manager who realized that the best way to increase the net profit that he got paid off of was to lower everybody else's income in the building. Okay. It wasn't to make employees happy. It wasn't to create good morale. It was to have everybody work for as little money as he possibly could get them to work for and still be productive, while greatly increasing the net profit on the store that he got paid on. So his competing interest was, I'm looking for my payday today at the expense of developing employees that are going to want to be here for a long time, because as the general manager, my rule here might be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years max before he would get shifted to another dealership. And that's the same way CEOs at these major legacy manufacturers work. They're taking a short-term view to line their pocket.
So what I worry about, I pick out something when you said the manufacturer trying to get these customers affordable vehicles. I think they might somehow play that, maybe try to play that card to say that, to be able to change some stuff. But really what might end up happening is they're seeing all this money that these dealers are cutting out, and they want a piece of it. Ford's already said, we're going to raise our MSRPs so these dealers can't take advantage of the customer. So it just seems so ridiculous for a company to say, hey, we're going to raise our prices that we're getting out to these dealers so the dealers won't be able to throw these crazy market adjustments and just rip off these customers. And that's not the way you do it. But I really think there might be that angle that they might play to try to get vehicles directly to customers so they can cut out the middleman, cut out these new car dealers so they can get more of the pie that they're missing out on right now. And I think they're frustrated about that.
Well, they could be. And I know, 2 years ago, conversations that Zach and I had were, all these manufacturers are looking at the additional dealer markups that the dealers are charging. And I said, you better believe that the manufacturer is going to figure out a way to raise the MSRP and to raise the invoice price so that the manufacturer can be participating in this extra profit. So basically what Ford and GM and everybody's done is, the additional dealer markup is really the additional manufacturer's markup, and they've raised the invoice prices and correspondingly raised the MSRPs because they saw that the public would pay for it. And so Ford is doing to their dealers, General Motors is doing to their dealers what they don't want their dealers to do to their customers.
Right.
That's what's really funny about it if you think about it.
Guys, there's so much to unpack here, because eventually the music stops. And again, I think we're starting to see some of the initial signs of the music stopping. We've got to go to the chat. We've had so many very thoughtful contributions come in. This will be, Brand, what are you drinking? Is that bourbon? Is that whiskey?
It is bourbon. My beautiful wife brought me a glass of it before I started this because I asked for it last time. So
we're going to do a social experiment. Tonight is Brandon's Bourbon Fund. I will Venmo you after the show. So let's see if we get more donations. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
oh
Doug-
yes, please.
Douglas, thank you for being here. We really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Douglas.
We also had a thoughtful contribution come in from Brado. If we do not pressure states to ban ESG, no car company will ever swoop in with good deal. It's the whole point of ESG. Appreciate your comment, Brado. Fat Guy in the Kitchen we have here. Thank you for the contribution. This is the most chaotic car market in a century. Everything I've seen at the dealers I work at have been all over the place. It's not sustainable. I think the three of us would all nod in agreement with that. We have from Arn. Thanks for the contribution, Arn. Appreciate you guys. I've learned a lot from you. We're learning as we go as well. Things are certainly different today than they were even a couple months ago. And from JM, a really thoughtful contribution here. We appreciate it, JM. I don't need anything to do with a car. I just love watching a father and son who are friends like this. It's beautiful and warms my heart. Dad, you should be proud. Son, you are lucky. Thank you for that, JM.
Well, may I say something? I am proud. I'm very proud.
I'm proud too. Good job, Zach.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, and thank you, Brandon. Yeah. No, I if I could speak to that for a moment. We are so much more than just our YouTube channels. And if I should hire a film crew some week just to record everything Zach does during the course of a day, what time he gets up, what time his day starts, when he starts working once he gets up, and everything his day entails. And so very little of it actually has to do with the YouTube channels. So if people had any idea how hard you work, what it is that you're actually trying to grow and build, they would be as proud of you or prouder of you than I am. And I can't quantify how proud I am of you, because I know how hard you work, and I know how legitimate your heart is when it comes to this. You're not doing this just to make a few dollars. You're hopeful to be able to make some money doing it, but the real driving factor is that you actually want to try and change something for the better. And as a parent, I could never ask anything more than that of my children, that they find the place, they make the world a better place when they leave it than when they found it. So yeah, I am kind of proud. Sorry to get long-winded about that.
Thank you, Dad. All right, Brandon, your turn.
All right. So I've known that.
Dad, I really appreciate that. And so proud of what we're doing. I was actually, even as we're having the conversation about automakers and stuff, like I'm so proud of what we're trying to build, because like we don't sell any leads or anything like that. And it's been really fun getting to build the business together and all that we get to do. So I'm really proud of that, and I appreciate you being a part of it, Dad. And Brandon, it's been really great getting to know you over the past couple months, watching your channel rise. And like, we have no affiliation with Brandon other than we really genuinely appreciate his we appreciate his ethos and trust. If I may, just for 1 second, we know quite a few folks now. We love the TFL guys. Man, we had so much fun with Tommy and Micah, Tommy and Roman Micah. Man, I have a mentor named Micah, so it's very confusing for me at times. We love those guys, Brandon. We love working with you. It's really, really special. So we like good people. We hope that we can represent as good people, and thank you to everyone who's a part of what we're doing.
There you have it.
Am I supposed to talk now?
Yeah, it's on you.
I was more paying attention to the bourbon fund going up. So
yeah, I saw that.
My
got some major contributions.
Pretty expensive, so we're going to need some more money, people.
Either that, or you're going to have to start drinking cheaper bourbon.
Yeah, and anybody who adds to the bourbon fund, you can send me an email with any question you want to ask me, and I will personally answer it for you.
Wow,
you can probably find that on the about page over on Brandon's YouTube channel. Again, I'll put it up on the screen from time to time. Hey, I do want to pull this up from Thomas here, and this could be something where we collaborate. I'm just throwing it out there. we got to make our way down to your dealership at some point. Thomas says maybe do a new video series, and thank you, Thomas, with Laura on how to buy a car in 2023. Could be great content. So Brandon, part of what we've done over the years is we've done role play videos, which when I was younger, I never would have thought about doing role play videos with my dad, but we do role play videos and we put them on the internet, and it's not weird. And my girlfriend's sometimes a part of them. So just let that sit for a minute. But we could do a role play video, maybe even at your dealership. Could be interesting to demonstrate and change how we approach, buying in this market. Maybe we could even show for some of the different types of markets like we were talking about earlier. Could be interesting down the line. That's to you.
Okay.
That's to you to say yes.
Yeah, the title of it I don't really like, but it's yeah, we could do that. Actually, me and my sales manager have been talking about doing videos on like negotiating with used car dealers. So I think that would be good content and good information for people to be able to know what to do whenever you're going into a car lot like mine and how you get my cars cheaper. So that's just something, and we can tell of customers that do come in and are actually successful with their negotiations, and just tell you what they do and what they did to be able to get us. And we're typically firm on our prices, and there's still ways to be able to get us to take money off cars, even though that we're pretty firm whenever we do price our cars.
Can I ask you a silly question, Brandon? If you mentioned earlier in the broadcast that you have some customers that over the years have bought 7-8 cars from you.
Yeah.
Good customers like that, and even maybe brand new customers. I mean, if somebody really comes in and has a real honest to goodness tale of woe, like you're pretty much their last chance at getting a car, and they only have X amount of dollars, and the X amount of dollars is not quite as much as you would like it to be. But if they're nice in the way they explain,
the answer is yes. Yeah. We do it. I mean, there's been times even that we've heard situations. I mean, we've given away cars to people before too. We're in the business to help people, and that's our main goal. When I bring a new employee in, our rules are: number one, we're going to do the right thing. Number two, we're not going to lose money. And then number three, if we get the first two right, then maybe we can make some money.
And maybe and maybe if you get the first two right, it allows you to occasionally lose some money.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been cases where especially if there's cars that people are looking at and I mean, they find things wrong. I mean, we have cars that earn $5,000 and we have a lot of cars, and Alex has two hands. That's my mechanic.
Yeah.
So we don't catch everything. So I'll tell people, go get this car checked out, take it to your mechanic. And a lot of times the mechanic's going to find something, and it might not be something that's wrong, but it's like, okay, well, the brakes are a little bit worn. That's going to be your next fix. It's going to come up. It's going to cost $220 to get a brake job done. And that's what I would do it for. And they'll come back with this paper saying our mechanic said this car needs this, and it's going to need it in the near future. A lot of times we will take that amount off to say, hey, look, we get it taken care of, so you know what you're dealing with. Obviously, it helps us too because we don't have to deal with it. We'll just take some money off of it, and then you go get it done yourself. That's the best way to really negotiate with. Now we're going to be different than other dealers, but that's the best way to negotiate with us. Find something wrong with the car. Even if there's not something that's wrong with the car right now, you're going to be able to figure out what your next job is that you're going, because cars need maintenance. So that would be the biggest tool in the arsenal for somebody negotiating with the car dealer. Say, this car needs this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We 100% recommend pre-purchase inspections. Hey, I want to come back to the chat. Thomas with a thoughtful contribution to the Bourbon Fund. Now I am going to really have to Venmo you after the show.
Yeah.
We've got
absolutely.
Dan.
I'm going
to
need this money for the bourbon.
Yeah.
Richard, thank you for contributing. Justice, one of the car coaches at CarEdge, making a thoughtful contribution. And I see some comments coming through in the chat. So unfortunately, I'm going to say unfortunately, Brandon, but I understand why you do it. Unfortunately, Brandon doesn't publicly disclose where his dealership is for a very logical reason. They have a healthy business. He helps a ton of people. He would get flooded through the roof with what he's able to do. That being said, back at CarEdge.com, people have been asking for how we can help you buy a car. I won't do a long throw, folks. I just want to make everyone aware of the different ways that we can help. We have our CarEdge coach, which is 90 days, and you can work one-on-one via live chat with our team. Justice, for example. We also have our CarEdge concierge. It's operating on a wait list right now. We are trying to scale that up, but honestly, similar to your business, Brandon, to make sure that you can give everyone the proper service, like you got to have a lot of good processes, got a lot of good systems in place. And so we're on a wait list right now, but CarEdge coach, we help about 1,000 people a month over there, which is pretty incredible. Back in December, it was closer to 2,000, which was stretching our team a little thin. But we're really, really proud of what we're able to do back at CarEdge.com. And there's other stuff I am going to show because it came up earlier. There's an incredible amount of data back at CarEdge.com. So if you go to CarEdge.com and you click on free data, it's up at the top under resources. We've got rankings of value for different vehicles, and you can go into vehicles like this Prius. And if you want to see what the expected depreciation is for this Prius over 5 years, you just click on the depreciation and it's going to show you the depreciation, how many miles you drive, what the residual will be. So I really, really, really feel proud of what we're doing back at CarEdge.com and encourage everyone to go check that out.
And how much does that cost?
Well, some of it had prices on it. Others were entirely free.
Okay.
But bourbon is not free. Keep giving money.
And the bourbon is not free, so please continue to contribute. We've got to the Human Fund, which will also go to the bourbon fund.
George Costanza would be proud.
Indeed. Hey, so can we answer a couple comments, a couple chat messages?
Sure.
You guys both feeling okay for a couple minutes here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a comment from Dan, and Dan contributed to the Bourbon Fund. That does not get you special treatment, but I think it's an interesting comment. Why is no Hey man, I'm gonna help you do your first live stream, and then you can run it however you want. Why is no one talking about? Why is no one talking about how quality is going way down too? Nothing competes with an early 2000s Japanese car. I think this is going to be a problem, Brandon, that you're going to face a decade from now. And Pops, I think this is a problem that you and I touch on every single week with our Really You Got to Be Kidding Me. Is the quality of vehicles that have been produced over the past couple of years feels like it has been inferior to earlier times. And do you think that it ties back to those same stock incentives, those same drive short-term earnings?
Oh, absolutely. The bean counters have so much to do with the quality of cars because they're always looking for ways to cut the costs. And if the driving factor is to figure out a cheaper way to do it, not necessarily a better way, a cheaper way, well, that's what they're going to do. And as they do that, the quality keeps suffering. So, yeah, it's not. I mean, if you were to say to me, are the cars better today than they were in the 60s and the early 70s? Yeah. And they have a lot more safety features built into them. But also the manufacturers have figured out ways to get parts and everything that are so incredibly inexpensive in comparison to probably what they should be. And that's why they don't last like they should.
What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm going to really miss like the 2002 to 2006 Toyota Camrys. I mean, they'll probably still be around and have 400,000 miles on them, but like, I mean, some of the cars that were made between like 1999 and 2006, I think are some of the best automobiles that we will ever see. In at least in our lifetimes, because I mean these things. I mean, I've got an aunt that's got a Camry. I found her at an auction for $300, and it's got like I think 350,000 miles, and she really hasn't had to do hardly anything to it. She's had it for 5 years, so
wow.
We're leaving an age, and you're getting so many sensors and so many chips and so many different modules and computers being put in these cars that the average mechanic is the technology is going to progressively get more advanced and more advanced and more advanced, that the average mechanic is not going to be able to keep these cars up and be able to sustain these vehicles. And it's just going to not be cost effective to keep repairing a lot of these cars if you have to go to a franchise dealer to actually get them fixed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the whole like designed obsolescence thing, the moment it goes out of warranty, there are issues.
Yeah.
It's expensive to replace all these things. I mean, we see it. We sell the
Yep.
service contracts that traditionally called extended warranties, and like I've never actually talked about it publicly on the channel, but we're over 100% on our reserves. So like we've of earned reserve, like we've paid out more than we actually have in cash from extended warranties. And I think we're probably going to end up in that situation for the lifetime of what's called the portfolio, because there's so many issues with these vehicles and it's so damn expensive to replace them. And then you factor in inflation as well. So it is an interesting dynamic. Like vehicles get more and more expensive, and then you have more and more issues, and then someone's paying for it. And there was even actually there's a huge legislative push from the OEMs to be able to generate more revenue from warranty work. I don't quite understand. I didn't read the full article, but I saw it was in the homepage of Automotive News. So someone eventually has to pay for the inferior quality, and we're certainly seeing that happen over at Ford with them losing billions of dollars because of that. Back to the chat here for just a second. Thomas, Dad, for a bottle of Poppy Van Winkle, but actually, I guess Poppy Van Winkle.
It's Pappy Van Winkle. And
That's for Brandon. Yeah,
and that's kind of really expensive bourbon, isn't it, Brandon?
It's not $10.
I think you might have had too much of that Woodford Reserve already tonight.
No, I'm not even close to that's my wife. This is
we'll have to see if Mrs. Car Questions answered has anything to say in the chat to that one. We've got from Gil here. Gil's a longtime member of the CarEdge community. Gil, it's good to see you. Thanks for the contribution. It means a lot to us. I wish all dealers would follow those rules, take care of people, and be profitable. Absolutely. I have a thought that I want to share with both of you after this. Question: what is the best way for me to get a wholesale value of a car sitting at your dealership so I can make a fair offer for all? I will mention, and I want to get your take on this, Brandon, because it's not colored by like obviously the business that we're building. But when you work with us and you work with our car coaches, we can get what I am allowed to refer to as auction data publicly. And we also have Black Book data back in CarEdge.com. But Brandon, what do you think? What is the way to get a wholesale value if you're a customer looking for a used car?
I don't think there's really, especially not now, there's no way for a regular consumer to be able to get a wholesale value because there are no dealers out there that can get a wholesale value right now. I'm not able to buy any cars at wholesale value. And I haven't been for like a year and a half. We are paying retail values for these vehicles at auction. And I know a lot of people will say, well, the dealers are the problem. Just stop doing it. Well, if dealers want to eat, they have to buy these cars at whatever price they cost, and they have to keep rolling them. So when prices go down, we'll pay less for cars. When prices go up, if prices go up from here, we'll pay more for cars. And we just have to, because you have to keep rolling cars if you're a dealer to be able to eat if you want to stay in this profession.
You know,
nailed it.
Oh, go ahead, Pops.
He
nailed it. Well,
he nailed it.
I'm kind of curious though, Brandon, when you do look at book values, or do you look at book values, or do you just go by whatever's happening at the deal?
I know what my customer will pay for a car. So if I can look at a car when it's coming, when it's at the auction and say, okay, I can sell this car for $4,500. So that means I can pay $3,000 to maybe $3,500 for it. So, and I won't go over that. And it's discipline to know really what you can pay for a car.
And I would suggest that Brandon knows what the real wholesale or book value of that vehicle should be. He can look at a car and go, I think I can sell this for $4,500, and know that he can spend $3,000 or $3,500 to buy it, and knows in his heart of hearts that it's probably a $1,500 to $2,000 car that he's just got to pay up on to get it. I mean, he knows what they're really worth, but what they're really worth is what dealers are willing to pay for them today.
So I'll just give you a quick example. Did a video a couple of days ago and saw a 2008 Hyundai Azura go through, and I wanted to buy it. It was a nice car. It had 200,000 miles on it. And that car should be right now in this market, it should be like a $2,500 car because we can sell it for $3,500, $4,000. That car at wholesale went for $4,200. It's just outrageous now. And I know that you guys have been talking about, well, I don't understand why wholesale values are going up right now. They should be going down. And next month they're going to be up again. And then in March, you're going to see the data from February. They're going to be up again. And then April, you'll see the March data. They'll be up again. But then after that, you'll start seeing it roll over and continue the downtrend again. So next month, when the data comes out, that from what you're seeing, the wholesale prices right now, they're up. So don't be surprised. Wholesale numbers are going to be up next month, and they're going to be up a month after that. And you're going to see the 30-day, the past 30 days. But just so you know, don't be surprised, because the next 2 months, wholesale values are going to be up.
Do you think if my theory that tax refund season isn't going to be quite as robust this year as it has been in the past, and if that actually turns out to be the case, do you think we might start seeing wholesale values decline a little sooner than normal, if that were the case?
So our inventory level on a wholesale level is so low that it doesn't take any injection of cash to spike all of these prices. So we're going to have a more violent spike this year than I think we've ever had, even though tax season is not going to be as good as it has been prior to, just because these new car dealers, if we get this tax time bump, when we get this tax time bump, we are seeing it now on the lower end of the vehicles. You're not going to see it on the higher end of vehicles. You're not going to see a bump in new car sales, really, because tax time really just doesn't affect them. So you're getting a bump in this lower end stuff, and you're getting the higher end stuff still not selling. So we're not going to get any more trade-ins. So we're not getting any influx of inventory anytime soon. Repos aren't really pushing the system yet, and they won't be for the next few months at least. So you're not going to get any kind of any upward pressure in inventory from there either. So it's just going to take a little bit of money, push it into the system. These dealers are going to sell a little bit of inventory, and then they're going to rush to the auction. They're going to pump up the prices for the next month and a half. And then at that point, that's when I worry about the used car market. I mean, I want it to happen. I want it to crash. That's what I want. I'm a used car dealer. I want the used car market to crash. I'm tired of paying these prices. I want to get back to being able to give customers good deals on cars, and I can't do it right now. It's not, we're not able to do it. With this market, we're able to sell better than any other dealer is, but I don't feel like I'm giving my customer a good deal, and I hate it.
I wonder if another factor on the repo side why we haven't seen the influx there, because that could have been something that kind of drove prices down, would start to drive prices down. We were looking at data, this was maybe a month or two ago, Dad. We were looking at the actual take rate. So when a bank would have a loan that would go into default or severe delinquency, the actual rate at which they would then go repossess it was dropping. Like year over year, they were repossessing fewer vehicles. And we were starting to rationalize that a little bit. That was back when wholesale used vehicle prices were going down. Maybe they just don't want to have to go repossess a vehicle that, you know, the customers may be $15,000 underwater on. The bank doesn't want to be $15,000 underwater on. They'd actually prefer to just take any action they possibly can to help get the customer to continue to pay it. So I wonder if we're not going to see an influx of repos as a result of that. And instead of the bank taking responsibility for the loan that they let out, they're going to do loan extensions. They're going to find ways to do a personal loan on top of the auto loan, like take on and bundle even more risk just in an effort to not have to eat that cost. That could also restrict inventory if they choose to go that path.
Yeah, the banks don't want these cars back. They don't want them because they're so far upside down in a lot of these loans that, I mean, there's no way these customers are going to get out from under them. So the banks just need these customers to just give them whatever money they're able to give for as long as they're able to give it. But these banks know what's coming. They know that they're going to get these cars. And I know that a lot of the buy here, pay here places that I talk to and I see of these cars show up at auction, we're seeing more of them. I've talked to some guys who repo cars. I've talked to some actual buy here, pay here dealers, and their repo rates are twice as much as they usually are.
Wow.
And That gets even worse after tax time. So their busiest time of the year for them to repo cars is 2 months after tax time, because people will pay on these cars that they spend their tax checks, they have their down payments. They go pay this $995 down, and they're able to pay on the cars for 3 or 4 payments, and then they're not able to afford it anymore. So they just let the cars back. So there's going to be some excess repos there, and you're not going to see that in the data, because these mom and pop repo shops, which are a majority of the cars who actually get repoed, because of the types of customers that they're actually dealing with. You're going to see an explosion of that in 2 months. But still, I just think the lack of inventory coming from these trade-ins is so much that the repos, even if we get just a massive wave on it, they're not going to be the answer.
Couple comments in the chat real quick, folks. Thomas is continuing to contribute here, but also contributing some sobering news, pun intended. A bottle of Pappy on sale. We are also running a sale back at CarEdge.com. $2,800.
So we need to get going. Where are we at right now? How much?
Wow.
Where's the money at?
Beautiful. The effort is through the roof. We like it.
Oh my goodness.
Fat guy in the kitchen, appreciate you being here. Business is about people. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. At some point along the way, we forgot and only focus on money. Fat guy in the kitchen, you and my dad, who at times has also been referred to as fat guy in the kitchen. You guys get along great.
No, I have been referred to as the fat guy in the kitchen. Okay, not as a fat guy in the kitchen. Oh.
So how many people do we have watching this? We can do some simple math here. Let's
looks like it's about 1,500.
1,500. So if everyone gives $2, we're there. We're waiting.
Oh my goodness.
How about this? 1,500 folks watching, go check out Car Questions Answered, Brandon's channel. If you're interested in information that we share here at CarEdge, you certainly will be interested in the videos that Brandon does over on Car Questions Answered. We have permission from Mrs. Car Questions Answered that we can mute Mr. Car Questions Answered himself. We would never do that, Brandon. It is so generous of you to spend time with us on your Saturday evening. I want to just share one final thing, which is I just dropped in the chat. We talk a lot about the different ways that we're building our business. We have also done great things trying to provide for the community as well. Deal School 2.0, produced a year ago. It is, what was it, Dad? How many episodes?
Too many.
12 episodes walking you through all the different steps of how to buy a car, how to find a car for sale, what you need to know if you're a first-time car buyer. Deal School 2.0 is free, was free, continues to be free, resources that you can use. So I really encourage people, we do a lot of trying to provide information, trying to talk about the news, trying to talk about CarEdge, the business that we're building. Trying to say hi to significant others. We've also put a lot of energy and effort into just helping people as much as we possibly can. And again, that's why we admire Brandon, what he's doing so much, and want to see all the best for him, his business, and his YouTube channel. So check out Deal School 2.0. Check out all the free data. Watch the videos. Engage with the community. Help each other out. That's what we're all here to do.
Wow, nicely done. Is that your closing pitch? Is that your closing argument? Because if it is, I'm voting for Zach. I am.
No, Jason's keeping us on. Thank you, Jason. We appreciate the contribution. Jack and Coke, we appreciate that. And from Joe, why do American car makers hate average Americans? Because it doesn't pay as well, Joe. Evidently, is what it seems like.
Yeah. Why play to average folks when you can play to the above average ones?
Yeah, that's definitely what it seems like. Hey, well, let's call it a night, guys. Brandon, go enjoy time with your family. Thanks for being here with us. We really appreciate it. And Pops, do you want to sign us off and let folks know when they can tune back in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday night with us. We will be back on the Ray and Zach channel on Monday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, with more news that you can use. We'll be dropping a video every day, as we always do, on the main channel.
I want to change, just a heads up. I want to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I think, in March. Also, this was hilarious. Brandon and I were texting. You posted your video, what, the day before, 2 days before?
Oh,
the same day?
It's like 2 days ago. Yeah.
2 days ago. We had the same video titles. I actually went and looked. I think there were some punctuation changes. Pops knows this. I literally every morning about 5:30 a.m. I just like come up with the title and make the thumbnail, and I literally did the same exact one you did. So, and I want people to see here. We're still friendly. We're still good. You know, we're just like giving people information. So sorry for using the same title. It was not intentional. It'll likely happen again because it was a damn good title, man. So kudos to you for coming up with a good, engaging title.
Yeah, great minds think alike, right?
And besides the fact, there's only so many clickbait titles that people can come up with. So
Yeah, no. Yeah.
they keep getting reused. We're sorry about that, folks. We're creative, but not quite that creative. So anyway,
enough, Pops.
we'll see you all back here on Monday. And apparently I'm going to be doing less videos in the future. Yay!
Hey, have a good night, guys. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Pops. See y'all soon.
Oh, by the way, I'll be in the office on Monday, so I'll see you in the. We'll both be at the downtown Bethesda worldwide headquarters of CarEdge on.
Yeah,
Monday.
I'm gonna drop by too. I'll be in there.
I can't wait to
Come
see
on,
you.
man. It's not like you're busy. Tax season. We know it's gonna be all right. Good night, everyone.
See you, everybody. Have a great Saturday night.